and welcome to Who Dares was Mumbo Jumbo for the April the 13th, 14th, mid-ish April-ish. Lot going on. Easter's happened. That was lovely. Chalky eggs, always nice. Hope you had a lovely Easter. Isaac had a lovely Easter. We've been doing that. I've been off with him over half term, so I've been kind of busy with that. Toddlers and stuff. They're kind of exhausting. That's me. Hopefully you all had a good Easter. That's it really. What else is there to say? Like, share, and subscribe. Hello, new subscribers and people and things. Lovely, brilliant. Let's dig into what we've been playing. Played. First up at the gate, we got another game of Foodchain Magnate in. Ben brought the round on a Friday. We played 5-player of that, taught 2. So it was kind of a training wheels game because Bob and Rich were playing, as well as me, Robbie, and Ben, who played it once. So I was pulling my punches and just trying to make moves that would teach the other two what was going on. Ben, tunnel vision, engaged his killer instinct and was just going for the killer moves, and just I was sat there as we played round after round, just this punishing level of play he was taking out. And Foodchain Magnate is a game that if you make mistakes early doors, you are fucked. You're not coming back from it. And so there was a point where I was like, the baby monitor's going. The baby monitor's fucking going. I'm going to stop that now, because otherwise that's going to be all fucking show. All video. One interruption. Let's see how we do. Yeah, sorry. Yes. So it's a game, yeah, you make a wrong move, you're fucked. You're never coming back from it. And Ben was optimizing his moves. And at a certain point I went, Pen, trying to teach these two guys how to play the game. And then suddenly this realization dawned on him that he's min-maxing and brutalizing. I was like, if Bob doesn't enjoy this game the first time, you're never going to get it to the table again. Never. I speak from this as an experience, because there's some games that I've punished Bob by just doing moves on. I know Root is one he hates now because he did some inoptimal moves and I did stuff and fucked him over. Won't ever play again. So I was like, yeah, if he hates this game, then we're never playing again. As it stands, I quite enjoy what Foodchain Magnate is doing and want to see more of what it is. So I actually tried my best to get him to enjoy it, so we got through it anyway. Ben unsurprisingly won. So not much critique on that, because it's a fascinating game. I really enjoy what it's doing. The mechanisms of it, of this card play, is cool. It is a punishing game. It's that Agricola level of punishment, in that if you don't hit the milestones early enough when other people are, the stuff that give you rewards, things, some of those rewards are not necessarily game breaking, but they are brutal to not have them. And it's hard to come back from that. And certainly when I was playing through the game the other day, I pulled some punches and I played suboptimally just to show kind of how things work, and I missed out on a lot of good stuff, and I never had a chance of catching up. But yeah, really good, fascinating game. I'll cover it again because we're going to play it again soon. But yeah, the idea of I got into putting properties down in this version because I just wanted to see what would happen as more houses went down with the advertising, and it's a very cool mechanism as these properties are affected by the advertising. They kind of how it alters the ecology of the game and who wants what, and how you can plan something, but then someone boffs an advertising campaign out mid-thing, it can actually fuck you, because it will then, people in the houses will want, they want a cheeseburger and they want a Coke, fine, but if someone suddenly pushes advertising on pizza on top of that, any of those houses in those areas will also now want pizza. And if you've not got a pizza oven, you're not producing pizza, that surefire order that you're going to reap in money from suddenly is not yours to take because you can't fulfill it. So fascinating to see how that works, and the ecology of the game as it progresses through. And I really enjoy kind of what it's doing. So I will dig more into that later, I think, when we play some more of it, because we are going to play some more of it. But yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised by Foodchain Magnate. It really is one that, I'd heard things about them. We all knew it kind of was pig ugly, but actually to see it in motion and moving and playing, I really enjoy the mechanisms of what it's doing and what's happening. So that's definitely one that's on my recommended list at the moment. I need to play it some more to probably get a feel for it, but if you're in that heavy Euro-y type feel, even though I say heavy, yeah, it's heavy to a point. Yes, it is heavy. There's a lot going on, but once you actually understand the mechanisms and what you're doing with it, and if you play a lot of Euro games, it isn't that heavy. 2 muggles, yes, it's heavy. What else do we do? So, big one we got to do is Easter weekend. We played the World of Warcraft board game. If we didn't know, it's long been on my Grail list of games. Was the World of Warcraft board game. Mostly out of reach. It's all over the place in pricing, but it's a hard one to get, and the expansions, forget about it. But yeah, you know, having spent many years enmeshed in Warcraft, it was something that always kind of been on my list. Jamie saw a decent price one, picked it up and gifted me it, which was lovely of him, and we sat down and played it. 4-player. So how it kind of works, though, the game basically works is it plays up to 6. You break it into 2 teams. So we're playing 4, so there's 2 teams of 2. Me and Robbie were the Horde, the other side were the Alliance, Jamie and Tony. And it kind of works a bit like Runebound. In that you have a big boss, big bad. We had Nefarian was ours. He was supposed to move across the map, and there was a small rules error I made, which we'll come back to in a minute, which meant some stuff didn't happen as it should have done, so it wasn't a full version of it. But yeah, the idea is you've got a big boss, and you're trying to level yourself up by going and attacking various mobs on the board, which spawn throughout the game. There's up to 5 quests for each side on the game, and the varying levels of difficulty. And you kill them, you gain XP, you level up, you can buy more kit, you can level more cards out, and you've got a whole tech tree of stuff. Very Warcraftian, as you would expect, to be able to level up your character and buy equipment and hunt and get equipment and do stuff, build up your spec, and then run and kill the boss. If the boss doesn't get killed or reaches a certain point, in our version, Nefarian, if he travelled across the map when certain event cards are played, he would have reached a certain location. It would have been game over for all of us. He never moved actually throughout the thing, and that was due to a bugger up that I made. But yeah, you run and fight him and kill him. If that doesn't happen, then there's a big PvP fight, i.e. that both teams fight each other, and the winners of that, the winners of the game. But yes, basically very Runebound-ish, you know, travelling across the map. You're fighting mobs, killing monsters, gaining XP, gaining equipment, doing stuff, rinse, repeat. That's basically it. There's a turn track that rolls through and puts certain stuff into the shop that you can buy from there, or also event cards spawned from it. Now, we'd played the game and got right towards the end, and I was like, there's a big deck of event cards, and we'd pulled about 8 of them, if that's 6. And the board only calls for about 5 or 6 to get pulled during the game. And I was like, it feels like there should be more of these, because some of them were kind of non-events, they're like auction house, and you can maybe buy something which is like a soulbound item from the shop that only you can use. And some other little events, and maybe things that move the mobs around the board and other bits, but not much. As it turned out, there's some of these cards that have a plus mark at the bottom, which means you should pull another card with them if they get pulled. And we actually would have triggered a shit ton of them had I'd spotted that. And a lot more stuff would have happened, and a lot more stuff would have moved around the board. So yes, that was my boo-boo. At the end of the day, we still got a feel and flavour for the game. So how does it work? So you basically pull a quest card, and the board is initially propagated with 5 quests for each side. You get different types of monsters. You get green monsters, you get red monsters, not very helpful in a bag. Yeah, red, green, and blue monsters. The red and green monsters, you can be killed to give you XP. They usually quests will relate around red and green. Red's being the harder monsters, green's being not so hard. The blues are kind of trash mobs. You gain no reward from them. And whenever a quest card's pulled down, it will place the quest monsters down, the greens or the reds, down somewhere on the board. They go into a location, and you usually would drop some blues down as well somewhere else. And all the blues do, if you enter an area with them, you have to fight them. And that's basically wasting your time and effort, because you gain nothing for killing them other than a path through the route if they're blocking it. If they're in an area with mobs for a quest, you also have to take them out before you can then do the quest monsters. So they're just generally like a grind. They're like a chaff, and it's kind of representing, I think, that grind of getting through the game to level up. I'd heard stuff that there was a lot of gnashing of teeth in regards when I looked and done some research on it about the blue monsters. And I understand it now, essentially, because they do become a bit of a cockblock as the game comes on. As more of them come onto the board, eventually you're forced into having to have these fights to move them out of the way, and it's kind of wasting your time. It's not gaining you anything at all from it. And it just is a time waste. I understand it. I understand why it's there, and I also understand why people are like, this is bullshit. So the game, essentially, it's done by Horde go first, then the Alliance, the Horde, and then the Alliance. Everyone on that team gets 2 actions. You have little chits to represent them, and your actions can be anything from moving around, and you can do multiple actions. You can move around, you can go to a town and buy stuff and level up and do some bits in there, or you can engage, fight stuff. Basically, it'll rest. That's essentially it. You're moving around Azeroth, going to different regions. When you're in the region with a boss, a monster, you can fight it. Fighting is kind of cool. Is the cool bit. So you get a fight mechanism, which is essentially rolling an absolute fucking shit ton of dice. D8s, believe it or not, as well. Reds and blues and greens. They are all represented by the different kit and equipment you have on your board. You will have armor, weapons, and spells. That will give you different dice or manipulate the dice in certain ways depending on what ones you've got, and you can level them up as you go for the game. And I was playing Warlock class. I was a Warlock in World of Warcraft. My gnome Warlock, Oingo Boingo, went around for a while. So I thought I play a Warlock because I understand the basics of it. And that all worked and flowed very well. So you got this, yeah, the Horde side will go, then the Alliance side will go, and so on and so forth. There is a chance you can PvP and fight each other if you want during the game. Other than that, you have this fight mechanism, which, as I said, was very cool, where you have a bunch of dice, you roll them, and then you can manipulate them by the certain powers and abilities on your equipment. And the idea is basically roll a shit ton of dice. Over a certain level, there's a reference card relates to the monsters, which is here. Depending on what level of monster, if it's a green, red, or blue, there will be a threat level, which is the number you've got to roll on that dice to get hits on them, and then what they hit you for, and so on. Other than the blues, don't attack you. The blues will engage if you're in a blue zone. The others, the quest monsters, don't. You can move through them or choose to fight them. So you get this point. In early doors, you've got to be really careful, actually, because you can get wiped out, especially if there's more than one monster. They all have special abilities as well, which is listed on here that they do, which are kind of cool. And you essentially go in, roll all your dice, how many hits you've got, you assign the hits against them, and you have on your board, you have some hits are like direct hits, others are like ranged hits, and others are like defenses you have. So you have certain ones trigger at certain times. So you can initially, if you roll enough of, I think it was blue dice, the blue dice are rolled, they're like ranged hits. If you get enough hits in there to take out the health of the thing you're attacking, you get to one-shot it before you get into the meat of a fight. If not, then you move on to your red dice and so on and so forth, and what defense you have against what the hits they've got against you. And that's how it works. And it's really cool. It does feel a little bit Forbidden Starsy, which was a game I loved, Forbidden Stars, and I did sell it a little while ago because it just wasn't getting to the table. And Forbidden Stars was a fantastic area control 440k war game with this brilliant fight mechanism where you're playing cards and rolling dice and doing stuff, but it just fucking kills the game when you're playing. You stop, no one else is doing anything, you're sat there waiting for this whole process to roll through until it's your turn to do something. Now, when you're fighting and all that, and Forbidden Stars was brilliant, and this, it's similar-ish, not quite as intensive as Forbidden Stars, but it's similar. And essentially what happens is the Horde players will have their 4 actions, and the Alliance are sat there waiting for that to go, then it bops over, and so on and so forth. The issue you might have is sometimes, we did have a few occasions, is where my quest resembled me moving a spot and then resting. That's the idea, whereas Tony might have spent 10 minutes leveling up and fighting a monster and doing this and doing that, and some other stuff are happening. So there is this some downtime, and not a lot you can do between the downtime. However, to be fair, we still managed to get a whole game in about, I think about 4 hours we played it in. First game, teaching, everything else. Not bad going. And once you're playing, actually, it's relatively straightforward. It's a good old Fantasy Flight old version. The rule book is a bit more wordy and not as well laid out as it could have been, but I've gone through and kind of got it in my head how it worked. And other than, I think, the quest card thing fuck up, I think everything else we got right. It does some really nice things. You've got a bag, you can only hold so many items, you've got a spell book, you can level up and you can change your level stuff around. The leveling process and all that was very cool, and the fight mechanisms, again, were very cool. And I really enjoyed what it was doing. But yeah, it feels very Runebound in that you're going around leveling up and trying to get there, and a bit like Runebound. They're not as bad, I think, as that was. It just feels, it kind of drags on a little bit. But I think it does a really good job of simulating the World of Warcraft feel. There's no dungeons in it, there's no raids in it, which is a shame. And I think that came in the expansions to some degree. And I know, I think the first expansion had just basically a quality of life, a lot more cards and lots more stuff in it. Which I believe that I've seen a lot of the files for that online, so I might be able to just cobble together my own version of that. Maybe I'll have a look at what's involved. But yeah, because I ain't buying it because it's fucking crazy money. But yeah, World of Warcraft. I mean, you have to be obsessed to get it. At the end of the day, is it doing anything astoundingly great? No, I like a lot of what it's done though. The fight mechanism is really cool, and I like this kind of push-pull of the play between you. I understand why it's a niche thing now, because there's a lot of downtime. It's showing its age. There probably would be a more elegant way of doing that now. But on the whole, I was lovely. I was glad to play it. I was happy to play it. I enjoyed it. We'll certainly play it again. I think I'll give it a break because the problem is we've been playing Frosthaven so much that I'm kind of a bit burnt out on questy stuff. Want to play something else. But on the whole, it was cool, entertaining. Really like the mechanisms it did. Really like what it did. It was great to sit and play it, and it's definitely one of those. Spend an afternoon just doing this shit, and if you take it leisurely and chill, then you have a lot of fun to have. If you enjoyed Runebound, I think it's a better version of definitely Runebound, above Runebound 3 of what it was doing. And it's a shame that maybe they couldn't re-implement this down the road, as maybe bring it out again with a tweak and make it a bit more streamlined. But yeah, it's good. I like it. I really enjoyed it. I wonder if you want to touch it again to play some of the different characters and see how those classes work. But there you go. That is World of Warcraft board game from 1906 or somewhere. But yeah, really good fun. Really enjoyed that. And other stuff we played. No Thanks we played. Ben brought that along the other night. You know, No Thanks is a game I completely fell off my radar. Played it probably about 6-7 years ago, and then forgot about it. So much so that Ben bought it, we played it. I looked on Amazon and got it for under a tenner. It's a real good filler, plays up to a 7. Essentially, as you play cards, well, there's a set of cards from 5 to 35. You take randomly out, I think it's 9 cards out of that deck, and then the deck goes in the middle of the table. We all start with 11 counters each. The first card's pulled, and the first person has a choice of either picking that card or putting one of their 11 counters onto it to basically pass the card around. Every one of those counters is worth -1 point to you, so in a good way, because it minuses off. You don't want points, essentially. If you take a card, that is then in front of you with a points value. If you get a run of cards, so from 7, 8, 9, 9, 7, 8, 9, 10, then 7 is the number that stack is, because always the lowest card of that stack is the number it is. So you can kind of, if you play carefully and get it right, you can maybe pull other cards to reduce the numbers of the cards you've taken. That's it. It's far more complicated than me explaining than it actually is. It plays really fast, very, very quick, and you know, I really enjoyed it. I picked myself up a copy because it was less than a tenner, and it's one I think Jamie and Tony will enjoy. And I'd forgotten all about it. Thank you, Ben, for reminding me of that. He played it at Camping Con, and that's what came up. But yeah, highly recommended for the price it is. If you've got at least a gaming group of 4 to 5 or 6 of you, well, for pick up for that price, it's one that will be a good fillery area, and I think it's one that I think we'll see a little bit of table time now. So there's that. And then the other night we played. I'm a bit parched. Should have got the old Dr. P out. In fact, fuck it. The other night we played Twilight Inscription again. We've played one game of it, which was kind of a teaching game between me, Ben, and Robbie. Robbie did the pouring, he had it. So this time we played. I taught Bob, but the rest of us knew what we were doing. So I went and played, and I think Ben did, and I think Robbie also did. We all now flipped our boards and started using the randomised asynchronous version boards, the A-side boards. Dealt out a couple of factions each, and we picked one of them. I had the Winnow, I think it was. Really enjoyed it, actually. First thing, I was like on the fence for the first game, but the second game, yes, it is essentially solo Sudoku kind of feel-ish to it, as I covered before in the thing. But this time I got into the meat and potato of what I was doing with it, and it is for roll and write. Actually, it's one roll and write I've played and I actually enjoy. A lot of them I found a bit but this I do like it. No, it's not Twilight Imperium, but I like what it's doing. It's more of an engine builder of anything else, trying to kind of economy of that, and it was quite cool how you activate certain sheets and you bump between them. And I could have scored a lot more than I did. Bob won, which I'm dubious on because I think he may have unwittingly cheated a couple of times. And that's a big issue with the game, is that you're kind of so engrossed in what you're doing on your board, and as the game gets into the game later, it becomes more involved, is that you've got to trust that everyone is doing it right. So Robbie is renowned for not doing it right. So, but yeah, but at least he seems to be losing by a lot. So I don't think he is out to any mischief. He's just incompetent. But anyway, yeah, I made a mistake. Is that there's a navigation board where you unlock planets, and then you can use those unlocked planets on your expansion board to essentially complete rows and columns to get more resources. And I hadn't unlocked enough of them on there towards the later game to make use of that. So I could have scored a shit ton more points had I had those planets open, but you know. But yeah, on the whole, I really enjoy what it's doing. I think it's quite a fascinating thing as a thing. Now, I think it's overpriced. I say it's overpriced. The components reflect that. They're nice shiny boards. The pens are really cool. Everything is very high quality in there. So, but the price for what it is the issue, I would think. I think because it runs about 50 odd quid or more, and I think that's too much for what it is. If this was about a £30 game or less, it would feel like more your money's worth, because it's, I don't know, that's my feeling on it. It seems expensive for what it is. If you're going to do that, I would suggest maybe getting something a bit more meatier to it, like June Imperium, or something else like that, if you're going to pay that sort of money, because I think you'll get more play out of it. I think it was a gift. Thank you, son number 2. And I certainly enjoy it. As I say, if you're a Twilight Imperium fan, there is bits of it to enjoy if you've played that game, but you by no means need to have played that. And Ben, for instance, hasn't, and there's no less for it, and he's quite enjoying it, to be honest. But essentially, it's a kind of engine builder, and it's kind of doing that, and I like some of what it's doing. I need to play it some more to kind of get more feel for it. But on the whole, I do not dislike Twilight Inscription. I was on the fence. I did feel, was it going to be shit or not? Because roller rights often leave me disappointed. But I think what works in its favour is once you've taught it, which you can do with the first 3 cards that come out of the deck, and explain the process of what it's doing, it's pretty intuitive, actually. And whilst there's a lot going on, once you understand the basics, you can whiz off and off you go, and it's pretty cool. So yeah, I like it. I'm not convinced I could recommend it at the price it's at, but if you're a bigger roll and write fan and are looking for something with a bit of meat to it, a bit bigger, a bit more heavy, and it does play for a couple of hours, 4 we played, there might be something that's ticking your thing. I know there's Hadrian's Wall, which I've not played, which is supposedly even heavier roll and write. I don't think I'd go for that, but if that's your thing, then this might also be your thing. If you're getting it purely in for the Twilight Imperium fix, then you're not going to get that, I don't think, really. It's there in broad brushstrokes, but it's not really that. It's really something else. My nose has got very blocked up since I started filming this video, and I don't know why. Let you in on that.
Here is the news.
News! Big news of the last week or so was the passing of Klaus Tuber, the designer of Catan, a game, for my sins, I've never played, but it definitely has to be hinted at. I mean, he had a massive influence on board gaming, especially the real sort of the love affair that commenced early in the 90s with German board game designs and stuff, and that sort of economy games, and that Catan and all the other Euro games that kind of spurted out of that. So I mean, his footprint on the hobby is probably never, it's huge. So maybe, you know what, I'd maybe hunt down a copy of Catan, or know if I find someone who's got it, I'll play it in memory of the gentleman and find out, is it all right? It's just one that never really appealed to me, if I'm honest with you. And I kind of, as I say, I'd gone the more Ameritrashy route at that point, so it kind of passed me by. I obviously subsequently got into the Euros, but it's one that kind of, where it sat, never felt like something I really needed or wanted to play. But I know Jamie's played it a lot and was in one of the championships one year at the Expo, so perhaps he has a copy, so perhaps at some point he can bring it along and we can give it a rattle and see what it's like. I might well come away going, why have I never played this game, which may be what happens, in which case there you go. But anyway, he's snuffed it, so hats off to him. Klaus, whatever you're doing now, enjoy yourself, sir. Well, rest well, my young man. And he wasn't that old. It's a bit of a shame, really, but there you go. Anyway, moving on. Firefly is coming back to GameFound. Firefly, the game from Gale Force 9, that they have announced a big full-on big box edition, essentially everything. I don't think they already did a big box edition, but this is literally everything for Firefly in this big fucking crate. Now, I pretty much have everything for Firefly, other than I don't think I bought the posher money. They brought out bigger notes, I think. Aside from that, I think I have, other than maybe a couple of the extra ships you can buy, I have everything what's worthwhile having for Firefly. It is a fun, entertaining, pick up and deliver game in the Firefly universe. If you love your Firefly, then there's a lot of mileage to be got out of it for that. The base game's okay. You really need the bare minimum of the Blue Sun in there and the Pirates and Bounty Hunters expansions to give it some legs, some actual stuff going on the board, and interaction between players. Otherwise, it's a bit of a do your own thing without that. It's a very sandbox, but you do need everything in there to really kind of fully get it all to kind of be this big sandboxy, joyful Firefly crate thing. So yeah, so it doesn't really hold much for me, but unless there's something in this campaign that's like an upgrade pack or something, I don't know. I'll look at it. I imagine post the campaign it'll be available anyway from GF9 at some point. But yeah, I will look, purely think. If you're a huge Firefly fan and pick up deliver fan, then I suspect this thing's not going to be cheap. Then it might be for you. As I say, it's a table hog. It fills my table. It's a massive amount of shit when you've got the game out. It takes half hour to fucking set up. But it is a fun sat and just chill and do your thing. Go around, collect crew and do cargo jobs and try and avoid the Alliance and try not to get eaten by Reavers. And as I say, with all the extra bits on it, it's a lot of fun between a bunch of you if you know what you're doing. It's an entertaining evenings, fun and games. But yeah, but there was other. I mean, Outer Rim comes to mind as probably a more condensed version of Firefly. It does mostly the same thing with the Star Wars theme. Again, it's a game like Firefly that needed the expansion to make it better and work, and I definitely more so when both of them are the same. Outer Rim's okay, but after 2 or 3 plays of the base game, you've seen everything it has to offer, so you really need the expansion to give it that a bit more fruit. So yeah, between the two, I mean, if you're just looking for pick up and deliver space game, and you're not bothered too much about the theming, then go and pick Outer Rim up. Will probably work out cheaper, I would say, depending on what this comes out. If you're a big Firefly fan and want the Firefly game and you don't own it already, then this may be your opportunity to do so. So there you go. Other things in crowdfunding I have to comment on is the Tabletop News is on Kickstarter. It's got a couple of days left to run on its campaign. And it's spotted the other day because it was being tweeted by Restoration Games, and I had a curmudgeonly response to them. Yeah, so I think it rubbed a few people up the wrong way by saying it's the official Tabletop News thing. Like, what makes you official? I believe there's a bunch of content creators have done some stuff, have got together to do this thing. It's all kind of coming from of giving us this a bit more of a swisher, shinier, like a proper effort made. Rather like this setup, I imagine. This similar sort of thing. In this news thing, but the problem is I bump up against it really is if you go and look at the Kickstarter and look at the video, and I can show you a bit of it here, is that I just want to punch most of the presenters in the face because they're all just, hey, wow, wild and wacky, and hey. It's just scripted, and it just comes across as like just the worst kind of shit that anything I'd see of. Nothing to our colonial buddies, but American sort of popular shit like Entertainment Weekly, Fox News, that level of that just happy clappy, just all smiles and yeah, everything's fucking amazing, everything's awesome. That level of, I don't know, it's just all a bit fuck off. Just be normal, please. Because I think I'd watch about 5 minutes of that and want to punch my own eyes out because it's just too much. I question, number one, what are they actually going to fill their episodes with? Because I'll be honest with you, when I come to the news section every week, there isn't that much news going around with board gaming. It's not like a lot of shit happens. Occasionally there will be a spat, but most of the time the board game news is this is coming out and this is on Kickstarter and it's disappeared up his own arse or something like that. That's pretty much it. Occasionally a crazy designer like Bruno might go and do something fucking crazy, but most of the time it's kind of a bit boring. So I question what they're going to fill their days with. They apparently the 100 grand or so, 125, they're still not hit. They're creeping towards. Will be 10 episodes that this will kind of cover. I just don't know. Really, something that makes me worthwhile is like the news. I mean, I know myself from putting videos out ad hoc, you really don't cover everything. If to be on the nose, you kind of need to be feeding there and then. There's Board Game Geek, which has got like an instant you can see everything. There's videos by multiple fucking people putting out videos, just like this one, talking bollocks of their own opinion. There's all of that out there. So, I mean, do we need this? I mean, I do come down to the fact the only bit of decent mass-marketed kind of media on board games that has been of any worth, I feel, in the last 4 or 5 years or whatever it's been, was Tabletop. Will Wheaton's Tabletop was... no, there was issues behind the scenes and they got the rules wrong occasionally, but the actual format of it and how it was produced and how it looked as pure entertainment, as well as opening up the board game hobby, I think still stands as a high watermark. And this doesn't strike me as anything like that. This is just inane fucking gurning fucking happy clappy fucking Americans spouting shite. And I just want, as I say, literally the opposite of a fucking picture tent. It's inverting my fucking penis. I mean, it's literally coming out my own arse. That's how inverted I am with it. It just, I don't get it. But, you know what? Hats off, they're doing it. They've nearly hit their funding of 125k, which fair to so I could do with that. It's just not for me, and I do wonder, is it going to end up being an advertising platform? I don't know. Go for it. There's a big pool of stuff out there. We can all have a little nibble of it. Fill your boots. Not for me. Is it for you? I don't know. Do we need that? Is that what we want? Bring back Tabletop. That's what I'd say. But yeah, that drew my attention. And I think that's it for board game news. There we go. There's no fucking board game news. Or nothing that I would count as being worthwhile me wasting my time to tell you about it if you've not already seen it already. And if I've missed something, then fine, we'll catch it the next time around. What else going on with me? Well, so Isaac, we took him to see the Mario movie the other day. His first cinema experience. He very much enjoyed that, bless him. Well, I think it was alright. It's alright. The storyline's fairly non-existent. It looks gorgeous. It had lots of nice Mario references there. It's definitely what it was. I mean, it did the Mario thing. It was pretty much fluff, if I'm honest with you. I have a soft spot for the 1993 version Mario movie with Bob Hoskins and Dennis Hopper. I was working for Nintendo at the time. I remember going to the premiere, I use the term loosely, for that movie, and I was fascinated by what a fucking car crash it was. But it holds a soft place in my heart because I was around at the time when it came out and I was working for Nintendo, and so it was a thing. And it's got Dennis Hopper in it, which is always worth a watch. Yes, it's a car crash. It's production designed by Blade Runner meets something else. It's weird. It's fucked up. It's a bit dark. It's a bit weird. It's a bit everything really. You would go, what the fuck is this? Because when you think Mario movie, you think of what we've just got, not this dystopian, weird sci-fi Dennis Hopper theme. Just weird, but kind of cool, but weird. Guilty pleasure. I was saying that. Some of you are screaming at the screen, there's a thing, but as I say, I have a soft place for it in my heart for it. I have the Blu-ray steelbook of that over there somewhere. Maybe I'll sit there with Isaac and watch, see if you want to watch that. Weirdly though, the new one has basically the same storyline in it as the original Mario movie. So, but yeah, it's fine. It's fluff. It's nothing more than that. It was alright. Yeah, it was alright. I've seen some absolute gibberish being spouted out on the internet by fucktards, but it is an animated movie with Mario in it, and it does a very good job of referencing an Easter egg dropping of all the Mario stuff you would like to see, with some nice musical bits and stuff. Jack Black as Bowser, though I felt he could have been more so. But yeah, on the whole, a perfectly passable entertainment, and Isaac enjoyed it. So there you go. Jolly good. Cocaine Bear, I sat and watched that the other day. Again, was alright. It's really weird. It does veer from being that Asylum level fucking awful sci-fi movie shit to being occasionally quite amusing and quite well done. It's quite bloodthirsty, it's quite violent, it is tongue firmly in its cheek. It's supposed to be set in the 80s, but it doesn't really feel like it's set in the 80s. But yeah, what else to say about it? It's fine. Some bits of it are brilliant. There's moments where you sat there going, this fucking ineptly directed and shit. And you just have to go, this is just that sci-fi level shit. And then there's moments of absolute fucking brilliance where you go, oh, that's fucking very brilliant and very funny and very gory and very good. And then it falls off the cart again. And there's a weird editing choice towards the 2/3 of the way through the end of the movie where I've just sat there going, what the fuck is happening? What? But yeah, it's Cocaine Bear. I don't know what you expected from it. If you go in expecting Cocaine Bear, then that's what you're going to get. I can't highly recommend it. I definitely wouldn't suggest. If you can come across it as cheaply as possible, then it's worth a watch. But that's about as high a claim I can give it, really. It is what you expect it to be. What else is there? Mandalorian. We're down to one last episode to come on that. I have issues with Mandalorian. Last episode was very good, tying up all the loose threads that have been randomly. They could basically do with someone actually to script these fucking shows better, because it's been dropping bits and pieces all over the place, and then suddenly they try and kind of tie everything together in this one episode at the end, which kind of works. There's a lot of hinting at the bigger Star Wars universe, and it's doing a lot of heavy lifting in relation to the sequels and setting stuff up, obviously, for the Ashoka and some other shows, which does look very cool, might I say. I know Jamie went to Star Wars Celebration last weekend. He hasn't said much about it, actually, but other than it was really fucking busy. But there's a lot of panels on that. I don't know if he got to see any of them. But yeah, I don't know. I'm quite excited for Ashoka because I really enjoyed Rebels when I sat down and watched it, which, if you've not watched Rebels, is animated, and I know it's the whole Star Wars blah blah thing, but it's actually, once you get past the first season, which is a little kiddie-fied to start with, once you get into the second season and Vader turns up and Thrawn turns up and all the other stuff, it actually gets really good. And I really enjoyed the 4 seasons of that are out. Really good. And it looks like Ashoka is essentially the follow-on from that. So that looks good. Mando, yeah, that was a better episode. It's insane. It is essentially like Favs and Filoni are basically playing with the Star Wars figures. That's essentially what it feels like they're doing. Everything. I mean, there was the whole Grogu in the IG-88 was fucking brilliant. In the yes button was fantastic. If you've not watched it, you don't know what I'm on about. But clearly, someone has a child who did that show because it was fucking hilarious and brilliant. And some of it is that, but a lot of it is maddeningly, awfully scripted, and you're left, what the fuck is going on? Whereas, I will say, Picard Season 3 is fucking phenomenally well done. There's only one more to come of that, and I really enjoyed that. It whips along, really well plotted out, on the whole, I would say. Great to see the cast back. I was never a big Trek fan, never a big Next Generation fan, to be honest with you, but Wrath of Khan stands as fantastic, and this is a lot of Wrath of Khan vibes. And it's playing back enough of the stuff of what I know of Next Gen to work out. And it's good. It's good, solid stuff. It looks like it's heading towards a rip-roaring final installment. If you were a massive Next Generation fan, then it's the one to watch. You don't need to watch Season 1 and 2, if I'm honest with you, because I've only watched half of Season 1, never watched Season 2, and I've managed to get through this without feeling as if I've missed anything by not watching the others. So yeah, well recommended. And I think that's it. Yes. So hoping in the not too distant future, I want to get a game of Dune Imperium with all the bling played. Maybe tomorrow I might get that done. What else? Maybe World of Warcraft will get back to the table and some other stuff. But yeah, there you go. We're going to play. We've taken a break from Frosthaven, which is why we've had this abundance of other gaming discussion to have. And I think at least for another couple of weeks, we're going to have a break just to play some other stuff. Be nice as a palate cleanser before we dive back into that. So there you go. So expect more of this. Hopefully the next video will not be quite so delayed as this one. As always, do the shit. Do the like, share, and subscribe and things and stuff. And send questions. I don't know. Whatever. Do something. This is available. You can do stuff. I will respond to it mostly if I remember. Or prod me hard enough. Have a great week. Enjoy yourselves. Stay safe out there. We will be back shortly. I'm sure. Well, I say shortly. It's not going to be shortly. We'll be back at some point in the not too indiscriminately far-flung future with another video with the same level of gibberish that this one was at. So there you go. If that's so does it for you, then consider yourself entertained. Bye.